Call the September 18, 2025 Reno County Planning Commission meeting to order. Staff, will you please call the roll?
Knisely. Here. Strand. Here. Schaefer.
Here.
Seltzer. Here. Macklin.
Here.
Martin. Here. And Gertson.
Here. Hey, we've got a full crew tonight. Welcome to everyone. In your packets, I hope you've had a chance to review the minutes from August 21. Chair will entertain a motion on those minutes.
Chairman, I move for approval as they were submitted.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the August 21, 2025 minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Well, this evening we have no cases in front of us. However, we're going to start on some text amendments. Staff, will you help us out and kind of lead us down the path? You shared some of the potential changes, and we'd just like to hear a little bit about what you have going, what's happening.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So last month, we had a discussion about future text amendments, and the board directed staff really to bring forth some further text amendments on cell towers, accessory dwelling units, manufactured homes, and then in doing that, I noticed that there was an issue with shipping containers, and so since we were amending some of those articles of the regulations anyway, I went ahead and threw that in as well, to add a fourth one, shipping containers. That was something that I had noticed a long time ago. There was a discrepancy in the regulations. One part of the regulations prohibits them, another part of the regulations allows them, and so we need to get that clarified here. And so I thought what we would start out tonight, we just start out with page 1, because everything is all kind of mixed up. All 3 or 4 of these topics are all congealed into all the different articles, so I thought we can just start out with each article and then talk about what is highlighted in each one of those articles on those 4 topics. I hope that won't be too confusing, but I thought maybe that would be the best way to do it versus flipping back and forth and talking only about cell towers and only about accessory dwelling units. We can just kind of take it one at a time, because a lot of the articles here are just talking about where it's going to be permitted or how it's going to be permitted. So with that, I can just get started here on the first page, is adding definitions. And so the first definition that I wanted to add was under number 73, and it's talking about a dwelling unit. So I added the definition of dwelling unit, comma, accessory. So I provided that here because we need to define what that term is, and we just said it's going to be a subordinate in size and independent single-family dwelling located on the same zoning lot as the principal single-family dwelling for use as a permanent and independent living facility. So what this is all saying in a nutshell is it's a second single-family dwelling on somebody's property. That's maybe in simple terms what we're looking at potentially allowing.
But it has to be smaller than the main residence. That's the only requirement.
Up for discussion, but yes, that's my definition. The board didn't really give me a direction on what an accessory dwelling is. I think we can get into that discussion a little bit deeper later, but yeah, so that's my definition of what an accessory dwelling unit is. I don't know if that's the board's definition of what that is, and so we can certainly talk about that later on when we get into the specifics, but that's the definition that I have provided you. If the discussion goes a different way, then we'll have to maybe go back and modify that definition to match whatever direction you give me on this.
What does permanent imply?
Permanent implies that it is not to be removed from the site, so it would not be like a manufactured home, for example. It would be something that's permanently affixed to the ground by like a slab of concrete, for example. On the next page, on the flip side, I in our discussions with cell towers, I felt that it was important to maybe add the definitions of what a monopole is, what a lattice tower is, what a guide tower is, and then certainly what a cell on wheels, or what I call a CAL. You might have seen that last time when we discussed our last cell tower case, a cell on wheels. I did up on the top, under number 189, I want to take out the phrase "or similar structure 50 feet or more in height." And so I eliminated that because I don't think it makes any difference if the communication tower is greater than 50 feet, because it could be somebody's ham radio tower, for example. It could be, any other type of communication tower that you want to have on your personal property that's used for broadcasting, microwave transmission, or receiving towers. So I didn't think 50 foot should really be, in there.
So we need to regulate, like if somebody wants to put up a tower for communications on their farm or something, we need to regulate that.
Well, it'd be under, it depends on what
Well,
the,
we eliminate any size,
yeah.
it'd be under.
So if it's still a tower, it'd have to meet, as you saw in the regulations, it'd meet those setback requirements. And yeah. I mean, if it's for ag use, it could almost be considered exempt, but I think we'd want to still regulate, that where that's going to make sure it's not on the property line, for example.
So you're looking at not just commercial towers, you're looking to regulate even private use towers.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's going to be a lot of those or not. And there's maybe a few, but.
Hey, do we know how many ham radio licensees are in Reno County?
Yeah, I don't have that, but it'd be for any type of tall structure. I've had people talk to me in the past, albeit far and few between. There's not a lot, so I don't know how much that would affect, a private use type tower.
That's why I'm wondering if we want to just eliminate the height limitation on that. I don't know.
Yeah, do we care about like an FM two-way radio?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
25 feet tall?
Yeah.
Or a ham radio in their backyard?
Line of sight, internet.
Yeah.
I've seen some
That's right.
poles out in the country
You get out
that
of the
get over the
country
trees.
Yeah.
Where they have to get the signal to the little disc on top of the elevator in the
Yes.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Think about it. Okay, so then you want to leave that in and say those are not regulated, or just think about that for a little longer?
Well, I guess, are we, if we take out that height restriction, what's that gonna do for you as far as caseload? Because all of a sudden, to Steve's point, we're gonna be opening the door to, and even Alan mentioned, are we wanting to really regulate every tower that goes up? On every farmstead or every home site? How do we wanna?
Well, I mean,
I know the statutes that you have there kind of limits us to what we do, but we're also putting something in our regulations with what. I don't want to have any ill effect on your load.
yeah, well, but I think as you'll see, or maybe you hadn't noticed, I mean, I'm looking at permitting them by right. So it's not gonna be like a private property owner is gonna have to come through a conditional use permit process. It's just a zoning permit.
Okay.
A zoning permit, 1-to-1 ratio from the property line, and you got your permit in a matter of a day or two.
Yep, well, let's go through the regulations right quick, and let's leave that in for a second.
Yeah.
That might explain a little bit more what we have going on.
So then, under Article 2, which is the agricultural zoning district, I'm looking at eliminating the placement of a single wide or double wide manufactured home and all the language that you see in there, and just simply calling it a manufactured home, regardless if it's a single wide or a double wide. In the agricultural district, we currently permit a manufactured home by right, meaning just come in and get a permit. If you want to put a manufactured home on your farm ground, you can certainly do that. And so I don't see the need to distinguish between single wide, double wide, for land used for agricultural purposes. So I just wanted to kind of simplify that and say it's just a manufactured home.
Now, do you want to say that is intended to be used as a principal residence?
Regardless if it's a principal residence, I mean, 'cause what are you referring to?
I'm saying because the part where it describes a principal dwelling is removed.
I don't know, we wanted to qualify that to say manufactured home used as a,
Principal dwelling?
family dwelling or principal or.
I mean, whether it's a principal dwelling or be permitted as a potential accessory dwelling unit, or it would be permitted as, like, say, a guest house or temporary living quarters. I don't know if.
Of course, the way you got this worded, somebody could move a mobile home out into their ground and plump, it's just there, and they can use it for whatever they want to use it for.
Use it for a dwelling, they can't use it for like a storage unit anymore.
Yeah, but where does it say it has to be used as a dwelling?
Well, it's in the definition what a manufactured home is.
Okay.
And so, why are you thinking that they would?
Well, no, I mean,
Put a
maybe you're right.
manufactured-
I haven't seen the definition.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't include the definition of manufactured home. Why are you thinking that they could put a manufactured home and use it as a storage unit? Or
Storage or office or
No.
something like that.
that could be an office if it's for
Hey,
ag,
Yeah.
ag purposes.
yeah,
but like-
we ran into that
Yeah.
with my neighbor down the road, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But as a storage, as a storage unit, no, it says you can't use a manufactured home as a storage unit, because that's not what the intent of that is, so.
You're just taking a lot of the words out of it then.
Yeah, I'm just simplifying it.
Saying
Yeah.
it's manufactured home instead of.
Just regardless if it's a single wide or double wide.
Yeah, I understand,
Manufactured home.
eliminating that verbiage, yeah. Yeah, okay.
And then, on the backside, I'm proposing to the board that telecommunication towers, cell towers, another word, would just be permitted by right, would be a zoning permit. From me, it would not be a conditional use permit where it'd be a public hearing. You'll see later on in the regulations what the criteria would be in order for me to issue a permit, but right now, it would just be a land use that we would add in the agricultural district, and as you see in the other districts, it'd be something we would add permitted by right, which means it's just a zoning permit from you.
You review all the setbacks, all the drawings, all that, and you rubber stamp it and it's done.
And the reason I can go over with you, is the statutes have changed. A lot of what you'll see, and we'll discuss again later in Article 15, we can't discuss anymore. And so, I went through, I provided you electronically the statute, and it's in your desk right now, the paper copy version. But, the first part of the statute talks about towers that are permitted in the road right-of-way. On page 3 at the bottom, letter F, it'll start talking about towers that are on private property. And you can see there's a whole list of things that we can't do. And, I summarized it. I don't know if you've read it all. I can certainly summarize some of the things here if you'd like. Which, reading this is what.
Summarize it.
Which, reading this, it led me to the conclusion to permit a right. So I come up with essentially about 13 things that now we cannot review with cell towers. Such things as, is there a need for the tower? The type or quality of service that you would receive from that tower going in that place. Is there a specific need that they're trying to solve? You can't request them to provide like the coverage maps. They'll have coverage maps of the areas that they are serving, so you can't, review that. You can't review if there are other possible locations that this tower could go. You can't review if this tower, or is there another tower that can provide co-location opportunities. You can't review the type of equipment or the type of technology required. So versus like, you can't require that it be a monopole, or you can't require that it be only a guide tower. It's like if they want to put up a certain type of tower, they're allowed to put up whatever tower that they so choose. You can't require the removal of an existing tower. So it's like, okay, we'll grant you approval for this tower if in fact you provide co-location opportunities and then you tear down a tower that's a mile away that's no longer needed. So you can't require that. You can require if it's going to be abandoned. So if a tower is abandoned, that can be something that you can require. You can't put in restrictions near like civilian airports. Let's see, anything that would be like greater than what the FAA requirements. So in other words, you can't say that you have to have a greater setback or greater lights than what the FAA requirement would be for that proximity to a civilian airport. You can't require any kind of data indicating what the signal strength is or the service quality. Now, you gotta remember, a lot of these are for towers that are like located in the city, and they'd be way beyond our review process. Some of this stuff that we're talking about, signal strength, we don't really get into that in the county. Surety requirements, you can't require a surety bond to require the removal of a tower, unless we do that for other types of commercial land uses. And so if we had a big commercial development going on somewhere and we permitted that, and then we required a surety bond and said, okay, if this commercial land use is going to be removed and cease operation, then you have to tear that building down because we don't want that out there. So we don't do that right now, and so therefore we would not be able to require a surety bond to tear down a tower. You can't discriminate based on the property ownership. You can't restrict public safety towers, so like for police or fire, we can't restrict that. And you can't place unreasonable appearance requirements on a tower, so you can't require, extra landscaping requirements, or you can't require the tower. Sometimes you'll see way back in the 90s, it used to be really popular where you would try and disguise the tower, be like in the shape of a Christmas tree or a large redwood tree, for example. You can't put those kind of restrictions on anymore. So, that's a lot. So after reading this, I come up with potentially about 5 things that we can regulate with towers. Setbacks, lighting that's not required by the FAA. So like, we could maybe say that, they can't put other types of spotlights on a tower other than what the FAA requires right now. Maybe a driveway location. If we don't like a driveway location, maybe we can require them to move the driveway location somewhere else to where it's for safety factors. Fencing, we can require some type of fencing. And then maybe a little bit with the actual location on a property. And I say that if it's like the tower is located next to a identified wetland, or maybe it's located next to a floodplain, which typically they don't want to put a tower in a floodplain anyway, but you never say never. And so really those 5 things, setback, lighting, fencing, driveway location. So really when you look at the statute, what you can't do, and I come up with what you can do, do we need to go through a public hearing process for towers? I mean, you heard it here, was it earlier this year or late last year, when a lot of people were concerned about electromagnetic fields. You can't talk about electromagnetic fields and how much EMF, they call it,
Yeah.
is coming off of a tower. Talking about the location of the tower, the fact that, hey, there's another tower two miles away. All that we,
From the list of things that we can't do, regulate, basically, you're down to a minimum of a few things that we can handle those by by, just regulations, say this is what it has to be, and we just handle it through a permit process, no sense going through a conditional use permit type thing. What's there to hear if you're complying with those 4 or 5 things that we're regulating?
which we would put in our zoning regulations.
Right.
You give me a survey, show me your 1-to-1 ratio, you give me, the fencing, driveway location, we review that internally, and we issue the permit, because, it's hard to listen to the public, and they have concerns, and they could be legitimate concerns, and.
But they're not concerned we can do anything about it.
But we can't do anything about it. I mean, it's hard telling citizens, well, state statute right here says that we can't review that. Our regulations say it. So, in our regulations, you'll see co-location of 48 different carriers. We have to ignore that, because this trumps it. This says, no, you can't.
So a public hearing in a tower setting is moot point. All we're doing is listening to, so.
People are gonna get public sentiment.
I don't like that, but I understand it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I
like the thought of being able to notify folks that a tower's going up, but I also understand that our hands are tied, and there's no sense really discussing
Well, even if you,
the items that you mentioned.
even if you notify them, what's the recourse?
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing, so they're not gonna like it whether you notify them or not, but there's, on the other hand, there's nothing we or the county, I would assume,
county's
can
not
do
gonna do
about it, because it's a state issue.
Yeah, and we'll get into the specifics, later, but now you have the paper copy, and I apologize for not getting it into your packet, it just slipped my mind, but, page 3, the first half, like I say, talks about road right-of-way. We don't regulate road right-of-way. There's certain things that, Don and his staff would have to look at, with somebody wanting to put a tower in the road right-of-way. Ours really starts on that third page at the bottom. Start flipping over, you start reading it. Oh, okay, well, we used to say, hey, co-location. We used to say, where's the nearest tower? We want the towers to be separated 3 miles away. Now it's like, in my opinion, we can't do that. So
I don't see any point in making that go through a conditional use permit.
So that was my thinking on that. You can think about it, if you want later, and come back with other questions here.
I would say that, look at the things we can regulate, come to us with recommendations on what those should be, and then we'll go from there. Be what I think.
The next one on the one page, it didn't have much right, there's no changes on that. Everything with the changes are highlighted in yellow. So, under R1, again, residential district 1, cell towers permitted by right. Manufactured homes permitted if they can prove A, B, or C existed on the property at the time. And so this kind of came up last month or so when we had the discussion on a manufactured home a little bit, and can they replace a manufactured home that was previously on the property? I put forth that it's not specific in the regulations, although we have tried to accommodate those types of situations without going through the conditional use permit. This will formally put it in place that if you're in the R1 zoning district and you have a manufactured home on the site, you can pull it off, put another one on with a permit. Still has to have a permit. Or if you tore one down within like the last year and you can prove to me when you removed it, then you can put another one back on the property with a permit. And then the last scenario was if previously, 1980s, 1990s, whatever, 2000s, we did a special use permit or a conditional use permit, and they had that documentation, or I can find it in my records, then we can permit a manufactured home to be put back on that property. Any other case in the R1 district, if it's vacant ground and you want to do a manufactured home, it's a conditional use.
So under your
permit.
C exception, there's no time limit on that? So
No,
if there was ever an approval by the county commission for a special use permit or conditional use permit, then at any point in the future, if there's no home on there, they could put one on.
Yeah, if they had documentation, or if I could find that documentation, because the conditional use permit goes, with the land, unless there's conditions. So, for example, like in 1975, somebody did a conditional use permit.
Something like that.
If there was a condition on there that said, this conditional use permit will expire in 10 years, then, but
So-
generally, we don't do that.
Sunset on it, yeah.
So conditional use permits just in general are considered perpetual?
Yeah, they go with the land, yeah. Unless this board and the commissioners say this conditional use permit shall end in 10 years or something, which,
So C is really just aligning the mobile manufactured home conditional use with how we treat other conditional use.
right. Page 3-3, no changes, of course. Page 4-1, again, you'll see a theme here for a while here.
Yep.
Cell towers permitted by right in R2, manufactured homes with those three criteria. Now, as you get into the R2, R3, even the village district, with cell towers, they still have to meet that 1-to-1 ratio, so chances of having a cell tower in an R2 district,
Smaller because of the.
smaller because,
Fall thing.
yeah, because of the 1-to-1 ratio,
Yeah.
so. Page 5-1, R3,
Same deal.
same deal with cell towers, manufactured homes. And then R6, or excuse me, not R, page 6-1, under the village district, same thing. Probably won't happen, but we don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 250-foot tall tower. It could be a 30-foot tall tower, for example.
10-foot tall tower, because we don't have a height limit on it
Yeah,
anymore.
could be that, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be something just for a specific area, think like Medora or Yoder, somewhere like that,
Well, that's where you're getting into, like your internet towers, reception type things.
Yeah,
I
right.
think, are we, is it being written in a way that we're gonna regulate like a TV antenna?
No, it's not. Like you put on a house or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of those are on call.
But some of those are all, yeah, some,
Yeah, I've got my TV antenna up on about a 20-foot pole, it's on my light pole, but it's on.
yeah, I was gonna say mine was
Yeah.
35 feet when I moved in.
25
I took
feet
it down because,
I say no, but maybe leave, maybe put the height restriction back in, then maybe that's what the purpose was. Some of that is under accessory uses, I thought, though, TV antennas and stuff. I'd have to go back and double check.
If we remove the, go ahead, Keith.
What about these guys that put, like internet antenna on top of a silo or something like that, where they're on up there pretty good?
For line of sight, internet type thing, yeah.
The antenna itself is only 10, 15 feet tall, but it's on top of a 60-foot silo.
so is the whole silo now considered a tower?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll probably have to do some more thinking on that a little bit. I wouldn't think, it's an existing structure, so I would, initial thought say no. I don't know if there's a need to regulate something like that. It's like regulating antenna. If it's just antennas, then I would say no. It'd be like putting antennas on a water tower, like our water tower. We don't regulate that. If it's an actual tower,
And I can't give you a definition of what it is, I just know there's some around.
Well, the primary use of the structure is something other than holding up the tower, holding up the antenna,
Yeah.
like a silo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at these green elevators
I thought it
on
was
that
no.
house, they are just loaded
Oh, yeah.
with, with
17th
antennas.
Street.
Probably no, but I think it probably warrants maybe trying to clarify that language.
Well, it needs to be, it's an independent tower, so that excludes it from being.
Well, I mean, you go back to your Article 1 definition,
Yeah.
where we're talking about the different types of towers. Now, those are, I don't see anywhere saying that the regulation is limiting the discussion of the towers to these 4 types that you've outlined. You know, but, you know, that's like a monopole, it's a single vertical pole, okay, what Keith's talking about, it would be a single vertical pole on top of a grain elevator, so technically that would fall under this, if there's no height
Yeah.
regulation.
So
Maybe
that-
all you needed to say is unless mounted to an existing building or something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, that,
I don't know how you'd word that to where it would, you know.
yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, you get some places, I know out in the country, they have bad internet service, they'll put up towers for line of sight, you know, connections. You know, I had one of those, I didn't have a tower, it was roof mounted for a while before we finally got the fiber out there.
We're talking about towers independent from any other structure.
We make
That was the intent, that was
So
the
that was
the initial.
So we ought to write that in there.
Yeah.
Tower is independent of any other structure or something. The way you said it was probably the way I was thinking. So,
It just needs to be clarified, because, yeah, that brings up that question. So either add the word independent or,
Is the structure a great big block of concrete set into the ground?
yeah,
The anchor that,
right,
you know, the 100-foot tower?
right.
at that point, if they tie it to their 5-foot tall well house, we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, so. Oh, all right, I'll do that.
We'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll try to figure it out
Nope, that's,
next time.
I think, you know, talking about that and then looking at that height restriction, you know, trying to eliminate that minimum height thing, I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
I think that would solve some of these issues that we kept at minimum.
Anyway, just so you know, I mean, my intent wasn't to regulate those.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
those types of towers, you know, the roof and.
I think unintentionally, it sounds like you are, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, unintended consequences by putting something in place like we did with the, you know, ag lot split. You know, so, yeah, so that's why we have you guys as a board to help me, because
You're like,
I have, yeah, because I have my way of thinking on it, and it's like, yeah, my intent was like, oh, yeah, we're not regulating the antenna on your roof, or if you're gonna put, you know, antennas on a grain silo or so, but yeah, the way the reg is proposed, it makes it seem like potentially we are. We'll try and clarify that language for you. Okay, under 9-1, the performance standards here, this it's been in the regs, you know, since its inception here, but I don't see where it makes a lot of difference when we're talking about residentially designed manufactured home, residentially designed manufactured home. You know, there is a definition in our regulations. Let's just gonna look. A residentially designed home is it's on a permanent foundation, minimum dimensions of 22 feet in width, a pitched roof, and siding and roofing materials which are customarily used on site-built homes. And so it's kind of what I call like almost like a modular.
so that would apply to
Yeah.
the manufactured home.
Yeah, so I didn't see the need to have all of this, you know, in here if it's a residential design home, you have to allow those, and so they're treated like a stick-built house, and so those would be permitted by right, so I don't see where we need to have all of these design standards, which are like building codes.
Do we need to reference that those other standards, include or extend to manufactured homes? For clarity, whatever, I don't know.
I mean, I can, if you think for clarity purposes, I just treated manufactured, because I treat modulars, residential design manufactured homes as just like a stick-built house. It's all permitted by right. It all falls under that big umbrella of single-family dwelling. The only differentiation is the manufactured home. That's a different category, so. I thought about it a little bit, but I did not put it in there for clarity purposes. Do you think maybe?
Now, if this is taken out, there's some really interesting kind of house ideas floating around the internet. If all this is taken out, does that open a door for somebody to build something that may not be compatible with the neighborhood?
Like a tiny house?
Or, like, have you seen the ones that look like grain silos, grain bins, or, which
Well,
I'm not necessarily opposed to, but
No.
if we're expecting a certain standard.
Well, all those types of houses, the shipping container house, the grain silo house, the tiny home, when we don't have a minimum standard size that constitutes a house, nor do we specifically prohibit that type of house going in on a property, so.
So then maybe we don't need these, because.
Right. That was kind of until we put some standards in place, so they know you're not allowed to do a shipping container house without
Like a dome home.
or a dome home. I've got one that's like an octagon shape. It's like a geodetic house.
Yeah.
And, I don't have a definition that says that you can't do that, so it's permitted. Not to say that we shouldn't or should, but bottom line is we don't have that right now.
By and large, we're just looking at land use and not aesthetics anyhow, right?
Yeah.
That's why we don't have building codes and stuff.
Yeah, see, a lot of those types of homes, maybe like your shipping container and other type of unusual, unique homes, a lot of them probably can't meet building codes, or it's difficult to get it to meet building codes, so that's why it's kind of not permitted in the cities. You don't see those in the city because they can't meet code. But in the county, without codes,
Whatever you want.
you do whatever you want as far as your house goes. So that's why I was saying that all that really needs to come out. I read through all that and talking about, ranch-style homes that predominate, under letter B there. Placement of the house, you should have it to where that the greatest length of the house faces the street. I mean, that's,
Well, just curiosity, in the recent history, have we ever had any issues with manufactured home relating to this section of the regs?
never.
So it's not really
So it's not really,
Issue.
yeah, it's not an issue.
And pulling this out, there's still verbiage where a new manufactured home has to be built after 1994, correct?
Still that,
Okay.
yes. Yep, that's still in play. And that would really be the only standard that we would have, has to be built.
But that really keeps a lot of the old sardine cans that people think of when you think of a quote-unquote trailer.
Yes, yep. Because anything older than 94 is a mobile home, and those aren't allowed in the zoned area. Zoned area will allow anything built after 94, so. But,
What changed in '94?
that's when HUD changed the standards on how manufactured homes were built. So, yeah, so that's why 94, yeah. But like, it references building codes and standards in here. Well, we don't do that. Talks about stairs, porches, and entrances. I mean, a lot of what's in here, I think, was kind of tipping toward the building code requirement, and we don't have that. We don't say that you have to have stairs or porches. I mean, you assume you would, but I mean, we don't have that as
As far
a
as-
code requirement.
Our regulations on manufactured homes, do we require like anchoring and skirting and stuff like that?
No, not right now.
We don't.
No.
So they can just pull it on there and set it on a lot on the wheels and hope it doesn't blow away. Huh?
Right, right. Unless it's in a floodplain, and then, yeah, then we get into that requirement there, but that's a flood regulations, that's not a zoning regulation.
You bring up a good point, because I think that's what Ken, before he left the board, he was concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not to say that we can't have some standards. I mean, if you want, you know, I could try and come up with some minimal standards here for change number, you know, well, change that to, you know, manufactured homes or so, but I don't know what those would be. I mean,
The thing it is, if we put anything there, we're gonna have to have somebody to inspect it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, who's gonna be the skirt enforcer of Reno County?
there you go. You're looking at
Into
him.
their job.
Yeah.
You're looking at him, so.
Hire a
I
staff.
mean, that's
hire
the
staff.
balance that you try and do.
Are we really wanting to regulate proper? We're just worried about whether the land use is proper for it, not the placement and security of it.
Right.
I mean, it'd be like, you gotta lock your door because there might be somebody coming in that you don't want. I mean, we don't need to be regulating all that, in my mind.
Well, let's say this is first reading, think about it, and I think we do, and I wrote this, you know, I had a 2-week window or whatever, I wrote this, and so I need to go back and look at it again, like, you know, we talked about with towers, if we're missing anything on that. But,
I guess I'd comment, I think you've done a superb job of getting to the next plateau.
think so, I appreciate, yeah,
I assume Don had a hand in it.
Yep, yes, he has. So we looked at this, we did one reading on it. Usually we do 1 or 2 readings on it. We just were able to get together for one reading here, and that, well, as a first draft to this board, we felt like maybe it's appropriate right now to introduce it rather than waiting like another month, you know, because sooner I get it out to you, sooner I can get feedback and we can move on with that, so. A lot of that, though, you know, talking about the siding should be consist predominantly of vinyl or metal. I mean, we don't get into that. The manufactured home should have a roof pitch of 2.2 inches for each 12 inches, and that's building code.
I think
So-
what you've stricken is just fine.
I mean, so then we get into, if we do eliminate all that, and any questions, I don't want to gloss over if everybody's got questions, so just stop me or so, but, so then we get into the specific regulations for towers in the agricultural district. And the way it's laid out, you've got performance standards for the agricultural district, and then you got performance standards for the residential districts, and so you'll see essentially the same thing, it's just copied over. So it looks like a lot, but it's just a lot of copy and pasting in the ag district as well as the residential. Setback is gonna be for a tower, a 1-to-1 setback, including the light and rod. You know, that's always a question I always had was, you know, our current regulations say it has to be 1-to-1, but it doesn't say whether that includes the lighting rod or not. You know, and so here I clarified that it does. And then those distances shall be verified by a surveyor, so they'll have to submit, you know, a survey showing me where that tower is going on the property and the distance it is from the property lines. So, you know, usually we don't require people to provide surveys, but this will be one instance where we will require a survey to verify those setback distances versus coming in and pointing on the map that's gonna go right here. It needs to be surveyed. Any anchor points for, like, say, a guide tower, shall comply with the setback distance of that zoning district. As
Can
you
you
know,
explain that to me? What are you trying to say there?
think mainly, a guide tower, a guide tower will have anchor,
Three anchor points.
3 anchor
Okay,
points,
all
4
right.
anchor points, yeah.
So what are you saying?
So it's gonna be
Those have
what-
to be at least,
It has to be at least 20 foot off the road right away and 10 foot off of the property line.
minimum setback distance for the.
So they're
zoning
treated
district.
like a
Okay,
building.
they're like
structure
building,
or
I see, I
something.
understand what you're talking
Okay.
about, okay, all right.
Okay?
Do they have to be within that, in that fall distance,
The anchor,
the anchor points?
no, they just have to meet that setback.
Setback from the
Okay.
property
The
line.
center of the tower will have to have the 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
But the anchor points, if it works out, they could have it
Well,
10 foot from the property line, unless we want to.
Well, I don't see how that could ever happen. If you got 100% fall height, the anchor points aren't gonna be 100 feet out. If you got a 100-foot tower, they're not gonna be 100 feet out from the tower.
That I don't know, so I'm not the
I
tower
don't think-
expert guy. I wouldn't think so either, but who am I to say? So I just, I had to have something in there to say, well, yeah, there is a setback for the anchor point.
So they aren't outside their footprint.
Right.
Right, okay.
And they're not on the property line. So yeah, it's treated just like a building. Exterior lighting shall not exceed the FAA minimum requirement. Any other lighting would be prohibited, so you can't have other spotlights. Not that they would, but you just never know. You can't have other spotlights, because this isn't just for telecommunication towers. This could be somebody else's tower for whatever reason. So you just don't, you can't assume it's gonna be for a
Sometimes,
cell tower
I think
company.
I've seen where you have towers, whether telecommunications or some type, and there's a small building at the base of it, house equipment or something, and they may have just one exterior security light or
Yeah.
something by the door.
That'd be fine. That's not what, that's, yeah.
I mean, under a strict interpretation, is that
Well, that's on the building, right?
That's on the building.
building, yeah.
That'd be on the
Yeah,
building.
Not on the tower. Okay.
Yeah, not on the tower, yeah. 6-foot security fence, I included around the lease area or the base of the tower, because some tower companies, and that's what I'm referring mainly to cell tower companies. Some cell tower companies won't put a fence around their 50 by 50 or 100 by 100 lease area. They'll just put it mainly around the base of the tower, so it might be at a 20 foot around the tower, so versus requiring them to go all the way out and fence their entire lease area, we say it can be either or, around the tower itself or around the lease area. You can't use barbed wire. I thought I should clarify that. Some communities don't allow barbed wire, but I thought I would clarify that. And then the cell on wheels are usually on trailers or trucks. I thought I should clarify that, says we're not gonna require fencing for that type of cell tower.
Those are generally temporary use anyway.
Yep. And then they need to submit the lease agreement with the property owner, saying that the tower will be removed and how the ground will be restored to the satisfaction of the property owner when it's no longer abandoned. And I just threw in there that they don't have to give me the entire lease. We're not interested in how much they're getting paid per month by the cell tower company or any other type of, personal information. All we want to know is that, the tower will be removed and that the ground will be restored to whatever satisfaction the owner wants. Letter F talks about existing towers. I get this question a lot from companies, if they need to change out antenna. They always ask me if they need a permit to change out antenna. And they always tell me that they're not increasing the height of the tower or anything affecting the actual tower itself, just mainly changing out antennas. So what letter F is trying to communicate to people is that anything that's existing now, if you increase the height of it for whatever reason, now you have to comply with the 1-to-1 setback ratio, okay? Because you're increasing the height of it. It's treated like a brand-new tower. However, if you're going to decrease it, then you don't have to comply with that 1-to-1 because you're lowering the height of the tower. And I don't know if that's ever happened or not. Likewise, I don't know if it's ever increased, but I thought I wanted to put that in to clarify that, you know, if you've got a tower out there and you want to go up another 50 or 100 foot, so long as it still meets that setback requirement, that 1-to-1, then it's okay, get a permit. But likewise, I also want to clarify, if you had a cell tower that was built, you know, in the 90s and we didn't have this type of requirement, it's maybe, you know, 100 foot from the road. Now, if they want to lower that tower from what its current height is, now they don't have to come into compliance with that 1-to-1 setback because they're actually lowering the height down there, so.
What would happen if there was a change of ownership, a portion of the property, and it invaded that fall zone? You know, I may not be describing that correctly, but the tower's in compliance and now I've sold 20 acres over here to somebody else and that, you know, the surveyor said it's going to be inside the fall zone. How's that contended with?
The tower's still okay, but like, you know, under this, you know.
So if they would want to increase the height of that tower, that'd be a problem?
That would be a problem. Yep, it'd be a problem.
The original height to be grandfathered in.
Yeah.
If you're gonna increase it, now you gotta follow the new regulations.
Yep.
That paragraph right after, as you're describing the decrease in the height, just reads rough to me, and maybe I'm just maybe I'm just might be thick-headed, but it says a decrease in the height of existing communication tower, which does not comply with the setback. That almost implies that the tower did not comply in the first place.
You could have had it grandfathered in and now it doesn't comply because of what he just said.
I got you.
So I'm saying you can make it shorter and you're still okay, but you can't make it any bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yep, I understand now. Makes sense.
Then lastly, it's just, it may not have been needed on it, but I thought it was good to clarify that hey, you gotta get a zoning permit for the tower, and any kind of building that's over 120 square foot needs a permit. Also, again, adding, replacing antennas, generators, electrical repairs do not require a permit. I get that question probably two times a month from cell tower companies. You know, they hire these third-party, you know, people to get the permits that they need to make their repairs, and maybe some of this will help take care of that. Cell on wheels is permitted on a zoning law for 6 months from the date of the zoning permit issuance, and then it says I can grant 1 6-month renewal. I thought about that a little bit, but I'm thinking that anything more than a year now is starting to turn into a permanent tower, and you know, you need to be in compliance with setback requirements at that point.
Does there need to have a sentence there after that 12-month term, the cell on wheels needs to be removed? Does there need to be something written there? I mean, you're acknowledging that, hey, we understand that 6 months might not have been enough, we can do another 6 months. But after that 12-month term, do we need to write into it that it needs to be removed?
I can. The definition says providing temporary communication services, but, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can add in there, it must be removed,
Or maybe reapplied. Let's just put reapplied would be a better term, not removed. Because if it all of a sudden is a disaster that we for whatever reason, the supply chain can't get another tower in place or whatever, they just need to reapply for an original permit. Does that make sense? I like to not remove rather than, I like to apply rather than.
How many times you gonna
Yeah.
allow them to reapply?
But we're allowing one. It's usually for 6 months. It didn't take that long.
So I don't want to let them to do it in perpetuity, but it at least gives, it makes them come and say, hey, I don't know how, then
Maybe after
you bring up
12.
a good point.
Maybe after 12 months, they have to comply with the regulations as if it's a permanent, so they gotta have the setback and a fence around it.
There you go. That's,
There you
yeah.
go. Make it permanent or move it.
Yep.
I don't know.
Generally, those
I'm
are
thinking
just-
through it, but I'm,
In my world, I'd do it by fee.
yeah, right? Yeah, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you open it up then for the opportunity of an unscrupulous operator to just buy 50 of these cows, put a fence around them and,
Call it good.
yeah, if you don't have a limitation?
Yes. Maybe that's, I think, Don, you may, I like the way you said that. I'm pretty agreeable with your suggestions.
Yeah, because permanent's not on wheels, so.
Yeah.
Right.
They must,
So after a year, it has to be
has to be, has to
Permanent or
be, yeah.
permanent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because by the definition, it's providing temporary.
because they've already got 2 6 months now. Okay,
Yeah.
now you're
If,
you're messing with us, and if you're messing with us, now make it permanent.
you either make it permanent or move the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could come in with a final sentence and say, after 12 months from the initial date permit, then structure is considered permanent and will need to
And must
comply with
Regulations.
There you go.
the requirements of a permanent tower installation,
There you go. There's our wordsmith right there.
whatever.
We can figure it out.
Okay.
You got the general idea.
Mark, it's not quite related to this, but do we, if towers are going to be allowed by right, then are we regulating the equipment buildings in any way? How does that work?
That's just a regular zoning permit from me. Anything that's over 10 by 12, it's not necessarily in the zoning regs, it's in our zoning resolution that governs building permits.
120 square foot.
Right, so, but I mean, if it's because like in this one, so we're talking about the ag district. If someone wants to build a equipment storage that's 2,500 square feet, if the tower wasn't attached to it, they would require a conditional use permit, right? Because it's not an ag use and it's not a residential use.
So it's just an equipment storage building related to the tower.
Right, so then are we allowing that by right?
We're allowing a generator to be placed out there. Let's just say they want to put this generator under a roof, but it just so happens that they're going to need 3 generators to take a 50 by 50 building.
Yeah, what if that build?
Right.
See, that's what if this equipment building that's housing their generator is 10,000 square feet because they really need to get around their generator to work on it?
The tower's by right, but not a building.
Would the accessory building, would it fall under accessory building rules at that point?
Yeah.
Because of the acreage and that type of thing? And have to be a conditional use permit?
Right, so are we going through the conditional use permit process anyway? If they're gonna have anything bigger than a,
For a building.
Building bigger than a 5,000.
Bigger than 120.
Bigger than a- right.
Bigger than 120 square feet.
Yeah, but G says, basically is saying you got to get a zoning permit application fee for the tower and equipment building greater than 120 square feet.
Well, in the So you concerned about the size of the building?
Well, it goes back to our accessory building
Or are
regs.
you talking?
Right.
So 0.2, what is it, 0.2 acres and below, we have 2,000 square feet.
2 acres or below, it's 2,000 square
Yeah.
foot.
And then above that is, what, 5,000, something like that.
Above 2 acres, it's
But this will be
5,000.
for a commercial use, so
Yeah.
it's not an accessory building
Not
like for a
accessory
house
building.
or for
That's fine.
an agricultural use.
Right, so it's,
So then won't it require a conditional use permit anyway?
The building.
The building
It
will?
would be a commercial building, correct?
would it? I mean, because the tower's permitted by right, so.
So all those regulations that say we can't do anything about a tower has nothing to do with a building.
But the building is
But is the building a
related to the tower.
Related to, but it's not
Related,
part
but it's not a part of the tower.
you know, technically, I mean.
Well, but the buildings are only, the buildings are only gonna be, 10 by 20.
Yeah, but they could be bigger.
They could be, it's like the Channel 8 tower out on Bueller Haven Road, that's bigger than 10 by 20.
So we are saying any size building related to a tower use is
Okay.
okay by right? I mean,
As long as it's related to the tower, I hadn't.
Now define related to the tower, if I've
Well, I
got
mean, the
it.
generator and electrical equipment related to operate the tower.
Right, but if I need a truck to go get equipment to operate the tower, then,
So,
so then I could, does that mean I could build a shop that attaches to it to store my truck that I'm using to repair the tower?
nothing here says you can.
But we don't for any other commercial purpose, right? Wouldn't we require a conditional use permit?
yeah, for
That's
that.
why, I think that's the difference, we had discussed this, between a tower and a building. No matter what the building's for, all buildings require a conditional use permit.
Not in the ag, they don't.
Think about
Well,
a,
for
think about a
ag,
wind
except for
tower, we
ag.
needed to know
This is
where
ag.
those, where that maintenance
This is
facility
commer- this
was.
is-
Right, the maintenance building was a,
Big deal.
Yeah, this, building a tower would be either commercial or commercial or private.
Take it easy.
yeah, Harley.
Thank you, Harley.
Make this fun.
It's too much fun.
Thank
Mike,
you. See you next month,
See ya.
or
All commercial
In the
buildings
mail.
require a conditional use permit.
because it's not a residential or agricultural use.
Tire by right, building by CUP.
Well, we don't want to do that, though.
Because then we're going through a conditional use permit process
tower.
anyway
I don't,
for the project.
I mean, I see the building I see as an accessory use. Not, I mean, we're regulating commercial principal uses, not an accessory use. So to me, the tower is the principal use, and then if you do an accessory building, I mean, that's just a permit. Well, I don't want, I mean, we don't want to do a conditional use permit for a building, because that defeats the purpose of permitting these by right.
I kind of agree with Mark's line of thinking.
Well, it has
We
to
just
be.
need to word the regulation such.
I've never,
So how does that stop somebody from sliding in a 5,000 square foot shop and calling it an accessory use to the tower?
A 50 by 100 building that they park a bunch of service trucks in,
Yeah.
or tractors to mow their cell tower lots.
I think if you're gonna
I've
make,
never had that.
I think if you're gonna make a building by right with a tower, you better eliminate the size of it. So it's for the generator or something and not for,
Right.
so maybe that's how you fix it. I understand it by
yeah.
right if it's directly related to a generator for a tower.
Yeah, it's the electrical
But-
components.
But this is wide open for any size building. Not saying it ever happened, but
Well,
saying it wouldn't.
And because our regulations, I guess as I've understood it, is that we have a relatively narrow amount of things that are by right.
Right.
And then everything else goes through the conditional use permit process. But now we're gonna have a big exception, a big tall exception.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to permit a tower by right and then go through a conditional use permit for an equipment storage building that's going to be 400 square foot or less.
Well, then-
You know,
then
so
say
that we
that.
So then do we need in the regulations then that limit the size of the accessory building by
Yes.
right? And everything else
Size
beyond
and-
that?
I mean, I-
Use,
yeah.
size and use
Yeah.
of the accessory building.
And location, like under 400 square foot, it has to meet setback requirements.
That
It,
kind of thing.
it can't have, living quarters or, any kind of plumbing for human
It's not an
consumption.
office, it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of thing.
The setbacks will be indicated in the permit, so.
Yeah,
We're just trying to eliminate somebody building a tower and then just by right, because he could build that tower, decide, well, I own 6 towers and I need a base. Let's just build my building and this is my tower that's in the middle of my 6 towers.
So I just
And
put
this is,
whatever I
so I
want.
can put up a building to put my mowers in that I maintain my towers with.
and we're talking more about a private person.
Whoever.
No,
They're-
It'd be commercial.
It could be a cell tower, it could be a third party that, operates the cell tower,
It's a cell tower developer.
yeah.
I think limiting it to size.
Limited size and use, and then if they want to make it any bigger than that, then they can come in and talk to us.
400 square feet, 20 by 20, you can put a pretty doggone big generator.
Eliminate it to a
You're
particular
good.
size, and anything greater than that takes a conditional use permit. What size is that?
Yeah, what's that size?
What size is it?
20
20 by 20, I don't,
400 square feet.
I mean, I could go back and look at some of the permits and see how
20
big
by 20
the,
is a one-car
big
garage.
building.
I can go see what the size of these equipment shelters are.
That'd be a good start, yeah.
Yeah, that's the answer to it.
Instead of us just coming up with a number.
You know what
see
we're looking
they're-
at?
See what they're using, yeah.
There you go.
It could be one of these. It could be one of a container.
storage
just
And
dropped
there,
there.
and we'd have no say about it, and it would be by right, because,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I'm perplexed. I guess I never thought of that because every tower we've done and everything has
They don't do
been
anything like that.
Yeah.
We're just thinking off the
No,
wall.
I mean, and
We're
it's-
just thinking off the wall.
And I'm not criticizing, it's good, I'm just, I'm just like, wow, I never
Human nature
really thought
is-
about.
If all of a
Human nature
sudden,
tries to take advantage of
If all of a
anything.
sudden there's a building-sized loophole in the regulations,
Somebody figures it out.
we'd rather you be able to rubber stamp it up to a point, and then that, if they have in their mind that they're gonna go bigger than 400 square feet, you're
whatever the
articulating
square
with them
footage
saying, dude, do you know that if you go bigger than this, you're gonna have to come through the
Explain
process?
why.
And then they're gonna, the scenario would be to say, yep, because I'm gonna store a tractor in there too. I'm willing to, or, yeah, thanks for letting me know, we'll just cut that size down.
I must not been focused. Of course, we didn't have time to work on it together as much as we usually do.
Yeah.
I've already been all over it.
Yeah, but, can you look at some of the prior applications, see how big their buildings are, and give us that information.
I don't know that they never proposed them,
Well,
and,
Mark says he's got some
Yeah, we've done several towers throughout the years.
but not with big buildings.
built.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Not buildings,
That would be a
period.
building. It'd be
He's saying they have
just your
buildings.
standard equipment shelter, 10 by 15 or 10 by 20 or whatever.
So
It's just enough to,
So 400 square feet is gosh aplenty.
I mean, I don't think even the generator sits inside. The generator sits on a concrete
On a
pad on the
pad.
outside, and you have a small equipment shelter, for the electrical, and that's it. That's why I'm just a
Well,
little.
then your 100, maybe your 120 square feet max is the right number.
It might be, or
Maybe we're being too generous with 400.
maybe I just said that. It's just because that's the minimum that you have to have in order to get a permit. If you do a 10 by 10, you don't need a permit. So, now is it a BZA, is it a special exception, or is it a conditional use permit? Or does it depend on the size
does
of
it
the use?
depend on what they're doing with it? If it's 425 square foot and they just have some electronic equipment that's oversized, that's different than if it's, if they're parking a service truck or a tractor with a mower in there.
So if it's 425 square foot and it's just an oversized building related to the tower, conditional use permit?
It's greater.
Well,
It's greater.
if we put a number in there, if it goes above that by 1 inch, it's coming through us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, I just,
Let's make it generous enough so that we shouldn't run into that issue on a.
20 by 20, should never run
Four by
into.
4,
20,
oh
yeah.
geez.
4
Should never run
no.
into.
Yeah.
That should be-
Well, and anything bigger than that, it's turning into a shop, and because like,
Yes.
we really don't want them to have like a shop
Yeah,
or they're
most of these
storing
places
equipment and
are-
driving in and out all
Most
day.
of these places are cost conscious anyway. They're not gonna put up a
Right.
bigger building than
yeah,
they
yeah,
need to.
we wanna close the loophole if one exists, because usually, you know, it's a 50 by 50 lease area, so they don't have room to put giant buildings on there, and if they don't, then, hey, you know, they come in, they just get that permit, they're good.
Just go with 400 foot or
Yep,
that, then
max.
that requires a conditional use permit.
Yep.
Solves that little problem.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good catch. I mean, yeah, that's why we have 7 other sets of eyes to look at this. Here's where, regarding shipping containers, you'll see that under performance standards,
You're not allowing.
we're not allowing it at all. Go later on in the document that I gave you, we're allowing them in ag and R1 and then not in R3 and villages, so I think we want to allow them, I guess. I guess that's my thought, my proposal to you is to allow them, I guess, so eliminate this section right here. On page 9-5, that's where we start talking about the residential zoning districts. So just a repeat of what the ag is.
Okay, so it's basically the same verbiage.
Yeah, same verbiage,
So
just repeating it for the residential districts.
so the same changes we've talked about on the
Yep.
other one then.
Yep, I'll make that change on letter G on both.
And we're allowing barbed wire in the residential districts.
For a tower,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, right now, for like, we don't have any fence regulations at all, so somebody could put a barbed wire in on their residential lot right now. We don't have anything that says you can't.
There's new construction of a tower right along, 82nd, turns into Dutch Avenue in Harvey County, and they've just got a 6-foot chain link with barbed wire at the top.
Yeah.
Right around the base of the tower, and then the generator even sits outside of that chain link
Oh,
fence.
really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's just to keep people off the tower.
That's why I put that in, because some of them may want to fence the 50 by 50 area, some other ones I will save money on fencing and just fence a 10 by 10 area around the tower.
Put the post right in the concrete base.
Oh, they're not messing around.
No, they weren't.
So yeah, so the proposal on the R1 would be to not prohibit them in all those zoning districts, and you'll see we'll add that back in later. One thing that I hadn't thought about here initially, but talking about communication towers on page 14.1, 14.102, you see we've added communication tower as being exempt from the height restrictions in that zoning district, and all those listed there are exempt. Otherwise, you'd be technically probably going through a variance situation with every single tower, if it's in a residential zoning district. Luckily, the ones we've done in the last few years have been in the ag district and haven't required a variance as well, or a waiver, for that matter. So I thought we'll add that in there, that way that's covered, we don't have to worry about running into an issue of having to issue a variance for the residential zoning districts. So then, on Article 15, on page 1510, this is where we're talking about all the regulations under the cell towers that we currently have. And I can tell you, like on letter A, location is equal distance from all property lines, we'll carry that over. Letter B and C are now not permitted anymore under the statutes. We have to have 48 antennas, and minimum service area is 3 miles for every tower, and we can't do that. The lighting, we've kind of carried over a portion of that in letter D. We don't talk about high-intensity strobes prohibiting that, it's just whatever the minimum FAA requirement is, period. Letter E talks about abandonment, so we've covered that in the new regs. And then letter F, the reclamation plan and the surety and all that, that's not permitted anymore. We've got a variation of that where typically they'll put that in the lease contract with the property owner, so we'll just have them submit that to verify that they are intending to remove the tower. I think the last tower we did for Next Tech, he had mentioned that, it's in their lease agreement that they will.
Going back to E, you said you dealt with that in the other regs somewhere, where you're talking about
Yeah, the other,
abandonment.
the previous regulations had that, and this was in that world. The proposal says that, it doesn't talk about when it's declared abandoned, it just says if it's abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's abandoned.
So it
you
doesn't
gotta
say that,
reclaim it.
if it's not being used for 12 months, so like, under this, you have to wait 12 months of not being used before you declare it abandoned, and then it has to be torn down. Here, it just says, hey, if you're walking away from the tower, then it's considered abandoned and tear it down, so we don't have to wait a year to declare it abandoned.
Okay. Who's monitoring that?
Yeah.
The landowner, I assume?
Landowner,
He wants to,
yeah. That'd be like.
he stops getting his rent check or whatever.
Right, yeah, well, that's usually when you tell that it's being abandoned.
Yeah. Okay.
I just gave you the 15, 12, and 13. It's just the start of this section discussing about shipping containers. I just want to see where it's located, so it's under accessory uses, so. Shipping containers, in the ag, if it's used for ag purposes, it's exempt and you can have as many as you want if they're for your farm operation. If it's not for farm operation, I remember we'd have a lot of ag lot splits, 7-acre lots, somebody just building a house and they're not, actively farming or pasturing, it's just a rural residential house. Limit of 2. I mean, I just, no rhyme or reason, I just put 2 out there. If you think it should be 1, we can do 1, or if you think it should be, all of them are permitted. You can have as many as you want. I didn't know where to go necessarily with that. And this is only for the ag district.
So in that district, you're saying that the commercial, industrial, or ag, and non-residential can put as many as they want out.
Right.
Whereas on a residential unit, you can have 2
2.
storage containers.
And that also kind of gets into the pictures that I showed you there. Are those shipping containers, or are those just buildings that are using shipping containers? So if somebody wants to build that building on their property, is that 2 shipping containers, or is that just a building? So he can have, are we talking about freestanding shipping containers, or are we talking about any shipping container? That's something you can ponder and tell me next month or whatever. What are you going to do with that?
A shipping container with pretty siding is still a shipping container.
Yeah.
I like the shipping
Not much
container.
lipstick you can put on it until it's something.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the one with the pretty siding more.
I do like that, but I was thinking if I held that siding up to me, I'm still me.
Yeah, you are. And so,
But we don't monitor ugly buildings.
We don't.
no.
But it's still a shipping container though, even if
Yeah,
it's
but
pretty.
on the flip side, if you built the same building on a stick built, and you had the same dimensions and same, for, instead of shipping container there, you had a stick built structure there. It's the same thing.
Square footage.
Same, only this is more secure than a wood frame building or something.
That's a building to me.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, if we say 2, and this is in the ag, then if he puts that in, now he can't have any more, any freestanding.
I want to stack 4 of these, one on top of the other, and make a 16-foot sidewall and put a roof over it. Why am I limited to just 2? Now, in the ag side, they aren't limited.
Right.
But residential, probably ought to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a building. I mean, do we
It's accessory use.
care,
Yeah, we do.
you know, about how many? Yeah, I mean,
Well, we probably don't want an unlimited amount.
I think 2 is a nice number to start with.
For residential, I mean, for
Yeah.
ag use,
yeah.
they
You're
use
talking about-
store equipment or whatever they have in there. I mean, it's, I know a guy that has a duck lease and he used to keep his, ATV in there.
Because you can secure it.
Well, he
Yeah.
thought he could until somebody came out there
And
with
chopped the end off.
with a grinder and cut the lock, even though it was a real $high lock.
Just some we don't do it in ours. I've seen other community regulations to help get the message across of what you're referring to, is we could incorporate a picture into that section right there that says, buildings that look like this are considered buildings and not counted toward the 2 shipping container allotment that you have in that zoning district. So you could build a building.
You could do
Like
it
that.
without a picture, say if two containers are incorporated, if there's a roof incorporated with 2 shipping containers, it's considered an accessory building.
You can do it that way as well. I mean, if that's.
If you're just gonna lay a shipping container out there and just set 2 side by side,
So in that case, I could have
you could have.
2 with a roof and 2 standalone.
2 standalone, yep,
4, you could have
Yep.
2 buildings like that if you wanted.
yeah.
You just screw
But then your
But then
accessory buildings are regulated elsewhere.
yes,
It's treated
yeah.
as an accessory building.
Yeah. And it's still gotta meet the square footage requirements. And
So that keeps somebody from stacking 20 of
What's
them
the
in a
square footage
row.
of
Well, you got height requirements, but yeah,
40 feet,
you're still,
usually 8 feet wide.
40 by 8.
Yeah,
300.
maybe, 8.5.
320 square foot.
Yep.
There's such a big difference between that and that.
Oh,
yeah.
That is shipping containers, that's a building.
yes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is.
that, but what you just described.
What you said, that
with
was
a roof on
around.
it.
I mean, you could even do something
I
less. than
understand.
that. You could put a flat roof with 2x4s and tin on it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and still a building.
yeah.
But yeah, I get it. So you want, they make fiber hoop toppers for 2 containers too. So that could almost be treated as a temporary.
Yeah.
Then what do you do?
I'm just,
You notice on this one, the shipping, the outside walls are not the shipping containers.
Yeah. Well, no, that one, I think they
I
are.
thought that one was just.
They are. They just
Yeah.
built a roof over it. Now they're, this one, they don't have.
That one they have.
They put, tin on the outside.
right. So I just,
That one, it's just,
I think it's something that needs to be clarified for
I think that's just the
me.
color of
Just the color of it?
yeah, shipping container.
So you think that would be considered a building, and then we're really talking about freestanding shipping containers on our property. That's fine, I don't,
I think it's dangerous territory where you start saying, go for the turkey. This building is ugly, but this one looks nice. You know, that's the truth. We don't do that with stick
do
built
that.
buildings.
We don't care what color trim you
Do
put on
that,
it.
yeah.
if I put in there, it's got a roof, I mean, the roof doesn't have to meet any type of code, it could just be,
But that's true of a stick built.
that's true of stick built too, yeah, exactly, so I need clarity on what we want, so when that happens, I can say, oh, it's just a permit, or no, there's shipping containers and you can't have two of them, or you can't have four of them.
And when we say shipping containers, we have this particular, whatever they are, 8 by 30 metal structures, but I think shipping containers can be have other dimensions, other material.
They come different sizes.
Okay, when you talk about shipping containers, you talk about prior use as a ship, the intended for prior use, it could be a semi-trailer.
Could be an old reefer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those shipping containers, don't they have the standard, don't they have a name? I don't.
Conco box, I don't know what I've heard them call. all
There's
sorts of
something
different things.
that the standard, that the ships that bring them across the ocean and when they put them on a train and
Right.
stuff. I'm not a transportation guy, so I was thinking there was like a specific name for the standard of a stereotypical shipping.
Well, they're standardized, but I'm just saying shipping containers, we have this picture, but shipping containers come in various sizes and shapes.
Yeah.
Could it be
Yeah,
a
you-
box van that they just pulled the wheels off of?
That's not what we're calling shipping containers, but it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we're talking about shipping containers that's never had axles or wheels on them and never was meant to have.
Yeah, but it's not written there.
No, it's not written there.
Yeah, well, we need to qualify that, because you don't want to have just,
Right, you don't want
Semi-trailers
semi-trailers out there that pulled the axles off of. Or do you? I don't know.
Well, Wikipedia calls it an intermodal container. And there are ISO standards that define what we think of as a shipping container.
There you go.
Intermodal, is the name.
And then everything else is, if you're talking about an old semi-trailer, that's an old semi-trailer, that's not a shipping container in this context.
Awesome, good job.
All right, I'll try and clarify. I mean, this started out as a,
In the definitions.
yeah. It started out like as a simple change, and it got really complicated when we got now buildings. Are these buildings, or are these shipping containers? And so, because yeah, there's a conflict.
I think-
freight container.
I think,
Yeah, there
okay,
you go.
and as
You're right.
from an ag standpoint, we're not limiting it. From a residential, we say 2. And do we care if there's a roof on it if we say 2?
Yeah.
So two, the way we started out, we just had 2, we didn't say there was a roof or not.
Right.
So if they want to
Yeah.
put 2 out there and put a roof on it,
Do we care?
that's fine. If they don't want to put a
Does
roof
that-
on it, they
but-
still got 2.
But if that, and it goes back to the argument, if they put a roof on it, is that considered accessory building at that point? I don't know, but when we go into our calculations for accessory building, you look at, you get your little satellite map.
Are you gonna count
And
this?
you're looking at your satellite map and measuring
Yeah.
everything that has a roof. Maybe they can have, all right, maybe they can have 2 with a roof. And we're not gonna, we don't,
Right.
put it up.
Well, we can,
But if they want more accessory building, they want, let's just say
Well, we
they're at their 40 by 40 accessory building, they got whatever that is, with that, or 40 by 40 roofed storage container, intermodal containers,
They're at
okay?
their 2,000 square foot.
So they're at their 2,000 square foot level. If they want to come back and build another big garage for their motorhome, this figures into that
what we just,
accessory building.
we just put that qualifying language in there that residential purposes, the storage containers will count towards the accessory use limitations for storage buildings.
We aren't gonna, if they're 0.2 acres, and they're gonna put a 40 by 40 building on it, do we care?
I thought they count anyway because they're a 4-sided structure.
And if they have a roof that connects them, that's all one structure.
Well, even if it doesn't have a roof, I think we
Yeah.
should include, they should be included in that accessory.
They do, I mean, it's a
Square
four-sided,
footage.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're included
They're
separately.
still
If they have a
included.
roof on them, it's one great big one.
Right.
That's figured, square footage.
So if they put a roof on it and they're spaced into like some of his, that's
I
just
call it
a bigger
existing.
footprint, which gives you a bigger building.
Yep.
Really.
Which will count against them if they
Yeah.
wanted to add.
Yeah.
It'll count against the allotment of accessory buildings, it just won't count
Right.
against them on the shipping container
So
side.
maybe we need to include some language here to indicate that, the shipping containers will be included in the accessory building square footage limitations. Just so people are aware of that.
We're not gonna govern them up front, but on the backside, they will be governed. They'll be figured into
Yeah,
any future,
yeah.
future development of
That's one
that.
way, do it. You're gonna let them put things in. I'm not,
The shipping container and anything that's attached to it on the outside of it's figured into it. That being a roof. Or an awning.
I personally don't have a problem.
Our neighbor across the road, your neighbor across the road has two of them stuck in the trees.
I don't know if we need it or.
He might have more, I think he's probably got two or three of them out
At
there.
least two, yeah.
So do we care?
I don't really think of them much differently than
A building.
another a four-sided structure with a roof.
aesthetically, they're different.
permanently
We don't
affixed.
regulate that.
But
I
we don't
understand that.
regulate
I
this
know.
bad aesthetics on a stick-built
I
building.
know. Yep. Well, some other inexpensive, secure way to store things, so to
Let's,
speak.
I tell you, sounds like this is a topic we need to do a little research on and at least a little bit of thought on, and maybe we can put a pin in this one for tonight.
How about the permanency issue?
Yeah.
I mean, you can just roll these off the truck and set them on gravel or whatever, or you
Yeah.
can make
Fold
them
them down.
permanent.
That's what a building is. It talks about any site-built structure that encloses people or animals and movable property. But it says, which is permanently affixed to the land,
Okay.
exclusive of fences,
This is not site-built, and it's not necessarily permanently
permanently
affixed.
affixed.
Not easy to move, but, it can be moved.
How does the assessor's office look at it?
Yeah, good question. I was kind of thinking about that in my mind, how they would.
Completely off the radar, because they're
Yeah.
tent buildings, they're not,
So are they then treated like a semi-trailer? Because are they a vehicle?
I would assume as much.
Now, I've heard, maybe this is wrong, but if you take the wheels off a semi-trailer, the assessor can tax it.
It's in a structure on your building, is that?
But as long as it's still sitting on the wheels, it's just a trailer. I don't know if that's true, that's just what I've been
And
told.
supposedly, yeah.
And I was in Harvey County.
So is it taxed more as a structure or as a trailer?
Different. You got
Different.
road tax.
Yeah.
Property, be personal property tax.
Yeah, but if you're not buying a tag for it, you're not paying any tax.
Right.
Aren't you technically, even if it's off the road, you're still supposed to pay property taxes on your vehicles?
Yes.
Whether people do or not is a whole other question,
Yeah.
but. It's turned into a rabbit hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
What about old railroad cars? Used to see those around.
Same thing. Precursor to the storage container, box cars.
The cabooses were cool.
Okay, think about that. Try and come back.
What do you think about it?
And you think too, and let me know. And moving on to another topic, lastly, is the ADU. So we talked about secondary residences. So are you talking about another big house or equal size of what's on the property now, a second house? Or are you talking about something that is subsidiary to the main house right now, an accessory dwelling unit. That's my question. What are you meaning by allowing a second residence on the property? Because I went the route of saying that it's a smaller house, whether it's stick-built, whether it's a converted shed, what have you, that you can use for a family member or not, that can be a second residence on the property, meeting certain criteria. Or are we just talking about, hey, I want to be able to have two houses on my property and not be limited by square footage like what I have here?
You know, they're subdividing almost. I would say that it should be smaller, you know, like you're saying. And think of it more as a mother-in-law unit type thing for, you know, an older relative or something. Not necessarily for a second, you know, main house for somebody, I mean. You know.
Because here we're talking about ag, which we're talking larger parcels, but you gotta remember, if we say it could be a second house on a property that's zoned R3, you can have something that's like 2 acres or 3 acres, as long as they can comply with sanitation code, then, you know, we would allow a second larger house versus restricting it like what I have done here. I mean, that's kind of the trade-off. You know, you're thinking, don't think in terms of 7 acres, unless we're gonna write 2 sets of regulations.
Have you seen any other counties in Harvey or somebody around here just recently passed some, or started talking about some ADUs?
It's a pretty popular thing. I pulled Douglas County, which is Lawrence, and Miami County, which is right south of Johnson County, Olathe. The thing with that is they both have building codes, so they get a lot deeper into the woods than what we would want to do.
Yeah.
But the general theme of all those that I've seen is what you see here. It's, you know, limited on size. Some say 50%, some say 80%. It's not separate utilities. It's not to be split off ever unless you can do it by platting. And so everything you see here is kind of what I gleaned from these other two.
The other ones like permit for, you know, full kitchens and everything?
It's another house. It's not like our guest house where you can't have the kitchen. This is another full-blown house
There
for,
are no limitation.
No limitations.
On amenities within the home,
no limitations other than the fact that size, no separate address, no separate like utilities, that type of
When you
stuff.
say no separate utilities, only 1 meter comes, no,
Only one meter,
our
yeah,
meter. They may share the same well, what about,
Right.
what about septic?
Well, that's what prompted this discussion further is
the county did.
Don can maybe go further than I can, you know, the sanitation code changes. Now we can put 2 homes on 1 septic system.
But these regulations don't allow it.
These regulations say, no, you have to have 1 house. You can have a second house on your property, it just has to be a separate deeded piece of land.
Okay?
The sanitation code says, well, we can tie these together
You've got a,
if
you've
it's
got
one owner.
You've got a primary dwelling, it's 1,500 square feet. The septic system is, knock on wood, they've had great luck, and they haven't done anything to it for 30 years, other than have the tank pumped. But it's not sized right. Who determines that?
Environmental health.
And then what happens after that?
So if you're building a new building on another building on this parcel, then you're gonna have to bring up that wastewater system to handle both of them.
Okay, what if there's elevation change and you can't use the existing, and you'd have to build a new field? Okay.
Back to the amendment that will hopefully be adopted soon.
What I'm getting at is that basically the sanitation piece could be separate. We don't have to, we can tie into it if it's adequate, but if it's not
It has
adequate,
to
they can.
comply with, it has to comply with sanitation.
It has to comply.
Have to comply with all public works codes, so.
But you could have a second septic field.
You could, yeah.
If you want to.
If the lot permits.
Yeah, if you got the space.
You want to.
But what you're saying is the problem now is that the sanitation code will allow for a second unit on the septic, but we don't.
We
Right.
Gotcha.
We don't allow the
And
second
it causes
house.
issues.
We don't allow the second house other than the guest house, but that's
But
no
that-
kitchen.
Right.
Well, how does, I guess I'm not familiar enough with the sanitation code, but, I mean, now, like a single family requires 3 acres for septic, is that correct?
Not necessarily anymore.
No.
You can
No.
have an enhanced system on a smaller lot.
Well, I was just thinking of a small lot, and we're gonna, say you can have another residence on there. How do you scale the sewer system?
It may not fit. I mean, if you've got,
The existing system may not be sufficient.
But in order to build this building on this lot, it's gonna have to comply with those regulations also.
So
You can't build it unless it complies.
roughly, is it based upon number of facilities in the house, or is it based on occupants?
Bedrooms.
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 Okay.
So most of these ADUs are gonna be maybe 1 or 2 bedroom.
I mean, I think
It's hard to have a lot more than that.
That's the thinking.
But do you also agree that the ADU can be no larger than 50% the size of the?
Yeah, I'm thinking if I'd want to do something like that at our house, at my place, that'd be a 750 square foot
You
little,
gonna put mom and dad in that?
well, they're moving to one right now.
750 square foot. I mean, just something to think about.
Well, does the limitation, do we just need a 1,200 square foot limitation? Because it seems like the way it's written now encourages a bigger house on a lot that already has a large house, independent of the size of the lot.
Well, what you got proposed is 50% of the primary residence, or 1,200 square feet, whichever is, was it?
Right, but like in,
Whichever more? I can't
whichever's
remember.
less.
Whichever is less.
But like in
Less.
Russ's case,
Whichever is
there,
less.
you might have someone that has, the current house is 1,200 square feet, and they may be on 7, 10, 12 acres, but you're limiting the ADU to 600.
Well, the guy the couple that wanna have their parents live with them because they're getting old, they got a 4,000 square foot, boy, mom and dad's a lot better off than the person that has 1,700 square foot. It's gonna put their,
Right,
it's like, so, I don't know, something to think about.
because I would think that, your parents are roughly the same size regardless of whether you have a 4,000 square foot house or a 1,200 square foot primary house.
If you want a bigger house, then split your lot if you can.
Well, I guess my question was relating to the percentage. Like, do we need the percentage limitation?
Or increase that. like
Maybe you just
75%.
need to shall the ADU shall be the greater of 50% or 1,200 feet,
400 square feet.
which limits you, with a maximum of 1,200 square feet.
Well, but you also gotta think,
So that doesn't, the percentage is what's limiting us.
yeah.
If
Right.
you take that percentage out and just say a maximum of 1,200 square feet,
Yeah, why can't you do that?
then you're done.
So you
If they
want a
wanna bu-
1,200
if they-
square, you want a 1,200 square foot house on a small residential subdivision?
But,
but that's gonna,
regulations are independent of the size of the lot. We're talking about, number 4 is talking about the size of the primary residence, not the size of the lot.
yes.
If we want to regulate the coverage on a particular lot, that's a separate deal, isn't it?
Then sanitation comes into play where you can place it.
Setbacks.
Setbacks, it's all gonna come into play, because you can't be within a certain amount of feet of your well, you can't be within a certain amount of feet of your field, your sanitation field, it's gonna, on the small lot, I think it'll all kind of take care of
You have to
itself.
have room for a second
Second.
sanitation field too.
Just in case one fails.
Right.
In fact, in the case that you have 2 of them, then you need to have places for 2.
So for those smaller lots, then the limitations will take care of themselves.
That will
like
take
you
care
said.
of itself.
What if it's public sewer and public water, though?
then 1,200 feet is, if they can squat 1,200 feet in there,
What's the maximum under roof for accessory buildings that we allow?
For like smaller parcels, it'd be like 2,000 square foot
and then,
before you have to do the special exception.
Well, I was trying to get a picture if we can make one requirement, is say you can have 2,000 square feet under roof on this lot, and it can be 1,200 square
Okay.
foot of auxiliary housing, and plus an 800 square foot shed, or,
all right, I'm thinking like you. All right, I'm looking at this, and you mean I'm only gonna be able to build a 1,200 square foot house, but I can build a 2,000 square foot building? And
Or-
put, and put a living quarters in there? Guess what I'm building? I'm
and
gonna bu-
and have
I'm gonna
two
build-
storage containers.
Yeah, and how? I mean, I'm going for the trifecta. Put mom and dad in the storage container. No, that's not right. But you get my point. I don't think that 1,200 square feet on an ADU is not out of line, because if they want to build a building, we're gonna let them do it.
We're talking about the ag district too, right now, so.
But what I'm still going at the same.
Yeah.
Now, I think 1,200 is probably should be the max, because you get above 2 acres and we go to 5,000 square feet. But we don't want them to build a 5,000 square foot house as an accessory house. I think 1,200 would probably be a nice, tell you what, 1,200 square feet is a nice living quarters for, let's just say it's a mother-in-law. Maybe it's a son that's gonna live there. 1,200 square feet's a pretty nice footprint. I mean, I'm used to living in 1,200 square feet, so that's the only thing I know. Now, if you're used to living in 3,000 square feet and you
No.
knock it down to 1,200, it feels like you're in a hotel room.
Well, now it sounds like we're talking more about just a second residence, because these are
Well,
supposed to be
that's basically
accessory
what,
dwellings.
it's basically what we're putting there.
Because the idea is to downsize from my 2,500 square foot house to something that's more manageable.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where the 1,200 square
That's-
feet comes in.
That's where the 1,200 maximum of an ADU comes into play.
1,200 is still.
It's a very reasonable house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But my point still stands. If I'm looking at this and I have the acreage, I'm not gonna spend whatever it costs to build me a stick-built house and only be able to do 1,200 square feet, when I can up my game and get another 800 square feet, which would be a really nice garage, attached to my living quarters with a 2,000 square foot accessory building, and by definition, it says in here that we can put the ADU inside my accessory building.
Right. But the
I-
ADU has to only be 50% of the main house or 1,200 square foot. So now you're gonna have.
I can build,
So you have a
but what I'm
2,000
saying
square
is,
foot building, but you can only have 1,200 foot at the ADU.
Right.
Or if your house is only 1,500
But
square
if your
feet,
house.
I can
then
see
you
the
can
house
only have
big
a
enough.
750 square
Yeah.
foot.
But I can build a 2,000 square foot building.
Right.
And put my 750 in that
In
building.
that building.
But no more than 750.
Right, but that's all right. I can live with that.
That's fine.
So to me, if we can put my conventional wisdom is balling this up, is if we can build a 2,000 square foot building, we can build a 1,200 square foot house. Let the landowner decide. That's it's roof line, to me. That's how I'm looking at it.
I mean, 1,200,
That's a nice
I've
house.
got a shop
That's a nice
building, I've got
mother-in-law
a shop
house.
building that's 30 by 40, and that's a lot of space.
Yeah, it is a lot of
You know,
space.
you can cram a lot of living space in there.
Yes.
But 600 square foot is something else.
Yeah, half that size, trying to make it into a home would be tough.
So you wanna take out the 50%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just put a max of 1,200 square foot.
Yep, and let them decide.
So then this is not then I don't want to call this an accessory dwelling unit because it's not accessory anymore, potentially. I think the definition needs to be changed and what this is. It's more about just having a second house on the property. And that was my question.
You still have the accessory dwelling unit definitions if they're gonna put it in, if they have an existing building or are gonna build a.
You'd be on the
build
same
a-
electrical
build a building.
system.
Yeah.
Shared utilities,
It's still gonna be an
Yeah.
accessory dweller.
it's not a
But
standalone.
not if you have a tiny little house on the property. Right now, you have an old house and it's, you know.
I guess the old house becomes the ADU.
There you
There
go.
you go.
I'm building a new one for
Well,
me.
if that's the case, then, see, if you do that, then you can build any size square footage house that you want.
As long
you
as
can't
the
build it
original one wasn't over 1,200,
Right.
so.
Well, so is that what we, I mean, I guess, so what's wrong with that then? If you've got, say, 7 acres,
We could just-
and you've got an 800 square foot little bungalow from the 30s there, what's wrong with remodeling that, putting the parents in there, and then building you a new house?
Where have you heard that?
Yeah, that's what, see, there's nothing on it.
Because it seems like you still have the same principle. You still have a primary residence, and then you have your smaller secondary.
So you're taking the principal and turning it into an
Yeah, as
ADU.
long as we declare it that, but then,
Just as long as one house isn't over 1,200 square feet.
that house that you're converting into the ADU, we'd have to take that out because the primary house could be located behind the ADU then. Because I have it in here to where
The ADU has to
the
be.
ADU has to be behind or adjacent to.
I guess it depends how much front yard you have. If you have room to build the new house.
This kind of goes back to that, when we changed the frontage and front yard, side yard, all that stuff. Why do we even care why do we care where that house is placed?
Because it's an accessory dwelling unit, something that you're not supposed to be seeing. It's just.
We don't
it's
tell them
supposed to be-
we don't tell them where, well, there are times, if it sets within the setbacks, we tell them to move the shop. But we don't tell them where to put the building. I mean, if on an ag lot, for sure, if they want to put a building right along the road and they drive right by their building to get to their house, what do we
See,
say?
that's what I'm hearing more about. We don't want to make it an accessory, a little bungalow for mom and dad or my college kid. I'm hearing that we just want to allow a second house. It can just be anywhere on that property, but just limit it to 1,200 square foot, regardless. So and that's fine.
I think it's potato to potato.
I think if you say you're limiting it to 1,200, second home, call it ADU, second home, whatever, but you can also extend that definition to include like shared utilities, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah.
where it's not a totally separate standalone home. It is still a part, it's connected somehow to that primary residence, whether it's through the utilities, septic systems, electric, water, whatever.
Because it seems like our goal is to write it so that it's like you can move in your parents and they can age in place.
Right.
But not so you can build another second house and get around the lot split or the plating process, correct?
Yeah, because
because you
that
got-
way, I mean, the utility thing is gonna,
Right, it'll limit it.
it's gonna limit that, the one address, not having
The one entrance.
one entrance, drive and I mean, you got a lot of those issues that are going to prevent an independent second home on the property.
Not to drag a lot of mud, but if I want to add on to my house, are you going to limit how much I add on to my house by 1,200 square feet? No. And in that house, I have a secure door that separates that house. There's 2 kitchens. There's separate living quarters
Do that.
completely.
Yep, you can do
I
that.
can do that all day long,
Yep.
but I can't do what I want.
And that's what people are doing, now. Now, other regulations will regulate that. You'll have to declare it as a second residence attached to your house.
Why do I need to declare it as a second residence if my folks are moving into my main house? their mail's coming to the same mailbox mine is.
You're paying the
And there's
electric
only
bill.
I'm
one
paying the
entrance,
electric
one
bill.
utility bill.
If it's a second, it's a separate entrance and
No, it's not a separate
you're not
entrance.
gonna have a separate entrance, but you could. You
I could,
You
but
could.
what, so.
So you're creating a duplex
And I
situation.
I just increased my footprint, it's just, I'm using this for argument's sake. I started with 1,200, I'm thinking, you know what, I'm gonna build onto our house, we're gonna create another living space and et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm going to 3,000 square feet. Okay, I just exceeded our 1,200 we've been talking about. I've just increased my footprint by 1,800 square feet.
That's okay.
But that's okay.
That's okay.
Because it's still within the
Still one
confines of a house.
house.
But if I wanted to take that same 1,800 square feet, well, let's take that, that's a bad example, but let's just say I can't build another 1,200 square foot, which is less footprint.
I think when you're looking at an accessory dwelling unit, whoever is considering constructing one, they're gonna have those options.
Yeah.
They can add on to their existing home to make living space for mom, dad, or
Right.
whoever. Or they can build a separate freestanding building for them, a little more independence and whatnot.
Right.
With the other restrictions we'd have for shared utilities and address and all that stuff.
Yes.
And it's just their choice what to do.
I
I
think
mean, it's their pocketbook.
this is where I still come back to, I think if we limit it to 1,200 square feet, they don't have to build it at 1,200 square feet. It could be 800 square feet.
It's max 1,200 square feet. Yeah.
The majority of them
But I
wanted it
don't,
as a separate.
Huh?
The majority of the people I've talked to wanted it as a separate, smaller
building,
unit.
yeah.
I just did one that's,
They want the independence.
I just did one that's 12 by 40, I think, so. Well, they are smaller inside, but people always have the option, I told that for years for them, to add on to your house if you want. I don't have any way to regulate it.
Now, when you
But
say
you're
you
less-
just, when you say you just did one, is this actually happening now?
Yeah.
So how are you doing those?
They connected this 12 by 40 sturdy built shed, if you will, with a breezeway to the house.
So now it's one building.
Oh, my gosh.
So they got around the regulations, but they actually put more square footage under.
Yeah. So there'll be a little area for mom, and they'll have a little breezeway that leads into the main house. And there's another person that did it too, a couple of years ago, same type of thing. I think his daughter was moving back, and so he added on to his existing house as well.
Well, I'm thinking of the Yoder area, there's some odd makeups around there.
Most of them are smaller units, I mean, that's, yeah. Okay, now that's just for ag, I guess the same thing would apply to both.
I think
Regardless of what.
if they can comply to the setbacks, 1,200 would be the max.
Setbacks in the
And
sanitation.
sanitation code.
I think those two things, even on the smaller lots, like I think we talked about earlier.
Your R1
I think
is what,
so.
3 acres?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you could do it on 3 acres, yeah.
The concern would be on smaller lots. I mean, it's one of those things where we can give you a 1,200 square foot garage if you get it, so why can't that be a dwelling unit?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that, you buy a piece of land with the understanding that, hey, it's single-family dwelling. What if every single one of those small lots put a 1,200 square foot house in the backyard like that?
But you say right in, I don't remember where I read it, that the owner has to go to Register of Deeds, there it is, that they gotta go get a deed written to where it restricts, to where it cannot be sold separately.
Right.
Well, it just has one address, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
One address.
One utility.
I don't,
One utility
that statement alone told me, why do we care how big it is? I mean, but we max it, right?
Yeah.
That's just simple. 1,200 square feet or 13, whatever, but
I think 1,200 is a nice
Well,
round
it
number.
was written out because of the
That's
fact that
space
it's not,
for the house too.
the idea was to have something smaller than the primary house,
Right.
or it's not an accessory dwelling. You could have 1,000 square foot, like what Alan's, 1,000 square foot little bungalow, now you're gonna go off and you're gonna build a 1,200 foot
Yeah.
accessory dwelling unit behind it. So it's not
Well,
really an
you run into
accessory dwelling.
situations where you have a small home and mom and dad,
In it,
you want to retire, and they come in and say, well, we want to build a house on your property, and we're gonna build a, we can't do, we can go up to 1,200 square feet, but we're gonna build 1,200 square feet, and then when we die, you can have it for your house,
does the appraiser care?
Oh, no, it's just.
Whether we have they don't care, they just care about square feet
Oh, yeah.
and how many bathrooms. How
Yeah.
many conforming bedrooms. That's all they care.
And the changes
So
in
why
land use.
should we care?
Yeah, the changes in land use, if you move mom and dad into the backyard, whether it's a 900 square foot house or an 1,100 square foot house, doesn't really change the intensity of the land use, how big their bedroom
I
is.
might be building a place for my son to come home to work on the farm.
Yeah.
Once the parents move to their next stage in life, maybe that's
I
where.
think the 1,200 is much better than 50%.
Yeah.
Yes.
50, yeah, I agree.
And now they'll be able to share the wastewater
I mean,
system.
if you look at 50%, then you get to 1,200, you look at
Yeah.
2,400 square
As long
foot
as
house.
it's all on one parcel.
So, all right, going back to your definition, Mark, I think you still need the definition in there, just in the event that they utilize a corner of an existing building. Because then that to me would be an accessory. Don't you think? An
Yeah.
accessory dwelling.
So they're taking an existing building and turning it into an ADU, you mean?
I've got a 60 by 100 building and I've got water in it already. And I don't have sewer there, but I'm gonna make a corner of that building for my,
I don't,
for my hired hand. I'm gonna build a 600 square foot kitchen bunkhouse for my hired man and it's in the corner of my shop.
I just don't like the word accessory anymore because it implies that it's subsidiary to the primary use of the property, which would be the main house. And we have situations where it would not be subsidiary to the main house, and so.
Instead of using the word accessory, you say additional.
That's what I was gonna say,
Additional
additional.
An
dwelling
additional dwelling unit.
There you go. It
It's
says
the same.
ADU.
That's what I mean, and it's not necessarily subordinate either anymore,
Yeah. Yep,
you know.
additional dwelling.
Additional dwelling, I like that. Yeah.
Change the wording on it.
If we're hung up on
Keep the
that,
numbers.
It is an ADU.
That's an idea.
Yep.
and that keeps everything in, yeah.
And we can still use the abbreviation.
You okay with that, Mark? Still don't like it.
Still don't like it.
Finally found something he didn't like.
Well,
I knew this was coming today.
I don't like it, but I mean,
help us, it's not for tonight, but help us understand for next month the implications in the county. What true implications do we have if this additional or accessory is larger than the primary? What implications are there? I mean,
It's still
really,
1,200 square foot.
and still a max of.
We're still doing the max.
What implications do we really have, other than Garth might drive by my place and say, man, Russ is putting an accessory dwelling or an additional dwelling right there? What the Sam Hill is he thinking? That's the only risk we have. And we don't have, all we care is, does it fit on the property? Does it fit within the setbacks? And can we do sanitation? That's all we care.
but there's also an implication of when you live in mainly residential subdivisions, platted residential subdivisions, that you're gonna have one house there. You're not gonna have two houses on every single property.
Well, if
like
it's
that.
platted that they can't have it, then they're not gonna
Well,
build it.
they can have it. They can have it, because they're on public sewer and water, so there is no issue with that. They can have it. And now you buy this lot, and now you've got like 7 or 8 of your neighbors that have now an additional house in there, and now you're creating like a multifamily type
You're gonna
situation.
gomer somebody that lives in a subdivision because they live in a subdivision, but my cousin down the road that lives on 80 acres can do whatever the heck he wants? That's craziness too.
No, I'm saying some situations, you're not gonna have hardly any implications, but if we have the same regulations for smaller lots, it could have huge implications on people that way.
Just the density
But
factor.
yet,
The density, yeah.
But the density's the same whether or not the house is 700 square feet or 900 square feet.
Population
There you go.
density.
Because it's the population
density is, but not the.
What's the same population density?
that same subdivision, I can put an accessory building in there and park my big old motor home and my $50,000 boat, but you're not gonna let me build a house.
But you're not gonna change it, yeah.
You're not gonna let me build a house to let somebody live in place for as long
Mom's
as
gonna
they
have to
can.
live in the camper.
Yeah, I guess. Pipe it outside. See, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I guess, should we be allowing those large buildings on those small lots?
But we already
have.
We've already rolled that ball around.
Yeah, so,
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, if we compare roof line to roof line, I see no difference.
Yeah.
I see.
But I don't see any difference in some of the subdivisions you see now where they're building 5,000 square foot houses on 3/10 of an acre,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and the houses are this far apart.
Yeah. You can't hardly get a mower between
You
them.
can't get too much more dense than that. I think we just need to make it simple. 1,200 square feet, if you can fit it on there, then it's okay.
That's my thought exactly.
You're the 7, is that what you want?
But it counts as the total
And then we end
square
this.
feet of accessory space. Counts towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Count toward your total
Yeah.
roof space.
Yeah, that would still count. So I'd have to have an interior plan that shows me how much is dwelling, how much is accessory. And if-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that 1,200 square foot, if it's, I don't know, if it's 1,000 and that puts you over, then you gotta do a special exception for that,
Yes.
for that
That's
building.
correct.
For that building.
I'd say right at the 1,200, take the percentage out, put 1,200 max, and we'll sleep on it until October, and we'll,
Same address, same utilities.
Okay.
same mailbox,
All right,
everything.
you wanna call it an additional dwelling unit instead of an accessory, fine.
That's fine too. I can deal with that.
All right, on 1518, right quick then, I just put in the regs that a person can live in their existing house while they're building a new house on their property, so long as the other one gets torn down or is in compliance with our ADU regulations.
Holy smokes, why didn't we read this 45 minutes ago? Because that answers your question about, that takes care of all of our argument that we've been, all of
Well,
the
you have to-
discussion.
No, it says you gotta remove the.
No, because you gotta remove it still.
Or it may be considered as an additional dwelling unit,
If it complies.
if it complies.
But if the house is 2,000 square foot, then it's not gonna comply, so it has to be.
If it's not gonna comply, then they gotta
Then they gotta tear
gotta
it down.
demo.
I think,
tear it down or tear part of it down.
I'm with it. I think
Park a couple cars inside
And then
those.
the other one, on shipping containers on 1519, let's see. Let's
Be used
see,
as a storage.
prohibited in R3 and village districts, but allowed if in the R3 and village district, you're doing a non-residential land use and you want a shipping container as part of your commercial business, for example, so.
So you're running a grocery store and you need something to store your non-perishables in, you can put something like that there.
Just put it on the site plan, we review it under the conditional use permit, and it'd be permitted that way, even though it says no here. But if it's for residential use, no.
I'm with you. Okay. That makes sense.
All right.
I would say, Mark, unless this board has any other desire, whatever you've stricken, go ahead and take it out, clean the copy up, and we'll look at another yellow line copy next month.
I'll try, okay?
Is that okay?
That's fine, yep. can strike all.
Then we can get closer to a clean copy.
Yeah, and I tried to incorporate the potential changes in the other regs, so we're looking at, there might be some on the text amendments we just did where you see something in there, don't pay attention to that, so just pay attention to what's highlighted in the.
Yep, that sounds fair enough. Fair enough. Spirited conversation tonight, but it's all good stuff.
One quick thing I have under other business, Mr. Chair, is
Yeah.
just let the board know that the text amendments we just approved last month, they're scheduled to go to the county commissioners on September 24th, next Wednesday. If they approve, at that point in time, hopefully publication would occur sometime first week of October, somewhere in that realm. And then those regs will be done and official and on the books. And then eventually I'll be able to get you guys copies of the
That's the lot
updates.
split.
The lot split stuff.
Setbacks.
Setbacks and all.
Taking a while, but that's just the way it is. So
Awesome.
hopefully by then it'll be done.
Process is working.
Slowly but surely.
It's slowly but surely. Any other business to be brought before the board?
Thanks for your work on this, Mark.
Yes, I know
We were
we're,
butchering it.
you're working with a couple, with a bunch of guys that don't exactly know the ins and outs of what you've done as far as all the regulations and definitions and whatnot. We appreciate your patience.
It's nice to see every now and then, see Don say, I told you so.
See, we have this,
I can-
that you guys have, we've already had this. So he's prepared.
I feel so loved in this room.
I'm preparing for what you guys are gonna do to him.
But no, I appreciate your comments because that's part of this process. Because, we want to close loopholes and make sure things are read well. And so I appreciate you guys though too, so.
Anything else to add? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, third,
Whatever. Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.